Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to yet another edition of Lunch Break with your host, as always, myself, where I just come in and give you my amateur analysis on the Carolina Panthers and some uh, NFL content as well. Appreciate everyone coming in, joining the live stream. Make sure as you come in, make sure you pound the like button. You're already subscribed to the channel if you're here because it's set up on subscribers only. Check out betusa.com. Link is down in the description. Other than that, guys, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. As you can see, if you go down in the description of this video, we're going to be talking about my thoughts on the Carolina Panthers Blueprint episode 3, which I couldn't believe how fast that came out. We're going to talk about Icky. I think he's going to have a big sophomore year, and I'm going to explain why. And then what I expect from every rookie from the draft that we drafted. Of course, then we're going to talk about Terrace Marshall and the breakout season. And then we're going to talk about 3 worst-case scenarios that could possibly happen to the Carolina Panthers that we might need to be on the lookout for, okay? I know everything right now is positive, but we also have to be realistic a little bit in some sort of ways, right? We have to be prepared for the worst as well. So other than that, let's go ahead and get into today's first topic. And I couldn't believe, like I said, I couldn't believe how fast this episode got released so quickly, especially for the behind the scenes of our off season. And honestly, the Panthers social media and creator team, I think have done such a great job with this, giving us the behind the scenes of our off season with this series. And I think this one was the best. This episode was the best one so far because it gave us the whole background story of going after the number 1 pick, after going after Bryce Young, all the discussions that, took place throughout this draft. And the things that stood out to me the most was that it was already kind of set in stone that Bryce Young was our guy, right? I mean, Scott Fitterer, popped the question to our coach, Frank Wright, days before the draft, they of course had a couple of times to just, visits and ask each quarterback, what they were like, their sense of the game, what would they do in this scenario. And you could just tell, I think, in this episode, not only was Fitterer and Wright were all about Bryce Young, right? But everyone in that building as well, I think, going through the draft meetings and all that, you could just tell they were all about it. Now, of course, they did their due diligence beforehand, and they kept an open mind when they were evaluating these other guys as well. But Bryce Young just stood out to them with everything. So that's my first thought. My second thought was with the second pick, that you could tell that they weren't really sure. And I think some nerves had to play into that. And because they thought that Mingo was actually going to end up in Atlanta. And Fitterer was shocked that the Falcons moved up a spot in front of them, and then they ended up taking an offensive lineman. So that made Fitterer be like, okay, well, here we go. And let's get Mingo. And so they were able to get Mingo. So it was, so they weren't sure what was going to happen, especially with Atlanta moving up. And then Sean Jefferson, I think, who did a really good job in these episodes, being that other voice, kind of that voice in Fitterer's ear and Wright's ear, helping them build this team up. And Sean Jefferson said that Mingo is the guy. And he just fits the position that they want him in. Z position to a T, that he just fits that position perfectly. And he can line up all over the place on the offense, really. And I think we're going to see some time with him in the slot, but it was interesting for me to hear that how well he fits that position so well, right? It's just perfect. It was a perfect fit and everything. So the whole Mingo thing was what the stood out to me going for that. And then Mingo was first on the board. Yeah, I mean they wanted him, but they just didn't. I just didn't think, watching that episode, I don't think they had any idea if he was going to drop to them or not, especially with Atlanta moving and stuff. Balance says, Clay, you look great. Were you on vacation or something? Nah, man, I've just been out in the sun and eating healthy and going to the gym five days a week. That's basically all I've been doing, man. Now DJ Johnson was was already pre-planned, which we already know or could tell from the episode. Them trading up, getting DJ Johnson. A lot of people around the league didn't like the pick, and people in Charlotte didn't really like the pick because he only played a full year in that position and only posted 6 sacks. But his freakish athleticism, his power, just gave our front office the go ahead to get this guy. They were very interested in him. And it was kind of funny. Frank Wright was like telling Fitter and Dan Morgan, saying like back in his office at the end of the night, he said, go look at the whiteboard or whatever. If you remember that. And they had DJ's name circled off for this pick. So it just really shows that they weren't nervous. They knew what they were doing. They knew who they wanted. And pass rushers were already flying off the board, and they would remain calm and was able to get a trade up and then get the guy that they wanted. And, that's it. So, plus Fitterer said in the video that they won the trade by a value, right? By 22 points, which is insane. So to get a value of that pick at that level is pretty crazy. My favorite part was seeing how we were going to trade to number 2. Oh, yeah. That was a good part too. I mean, honestly, that whole episode was, like I said, I think this was the best episode by far. I think this was the best episode by far. I thought it was a great episode. So, again, appreciate everyone joining the live stream, and make sure you pound the like button on your way in. Got more to go here, but those are just my thoughts and takeaways from the third episode. I just couldn't believe how fast it came out. So I watched it and then took some notes and my thoughts. So those are my thoughts. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about Ikem Ekwonu. Now, we've talked about breakout players and stuff like that, and I don't really think that Ikem Ekwonu really needs to have a breakout season, because I think his rookie season he did very well. But I think he's in store for a big sophomore season. Now, I think that the 2022 draft class for us fans might be the one that we want to kind of forget about a few years down the road, or that we'll not necessarily that we want to forget about it, but that I feel like we will forget about it. And it's one that we probably shouldn't, because of, we got Kellen Barnes who in the 7th round, he's already off the team. Amari Barno and K Mays look to finally become backups, but the jury is still out on that 4th round pick on Brandon Smith. So, and then Matt Corral I don't think has a chance of being the face of our franchise now with Bryce Young. So, but Icky, was the best overall in that draft for us, or was the best pick overall in that draft. I think for obviously for us, because it's just been a total smooth transition from him going from NC State over here. He did have some challenging matchups that, if we think about it, at the beginning of the season last year, going up against, Myles Garrett. But I mean, this year during, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and last year too. I mean, he just looks like a franchise left tackle. But the reason why that is because he plays with so much confidence. He's even given pointers to some of the young guys already, and he just appears to be moving in the right direction. He just gets better and better every time he steps on the field. And I think that has to do with a lot of he knows what to do. He plays at a high level. He has only one speed. So he just doesn't hesitate, and that's what you need out of a left tackle. And the problem is, oftentimes NFL teams will draft, their future left tackle or future quarterback before really putting together a decent offensive line around these guys to either learn from or protect the quarterback, or even from an Icky standpoint, people to really learn from. But he just stepped right in and it looks like our franchise left tackle, right? And they did it the right way for Bryce Young, though, building up that offensive line, bringing in Icky last year, and now we're at the top half of the league in the offensive line position. And I think that this year he's going to take his biggest jump yet in his second year or sophomore year, whichever one you want to call it, on the offensive side of the ball. He's working with a well-respected offensive line coach, James Campen, for over a year now, which I think gives me the confidence of making this statement right now. So be on the lookout to watch Icky just cook this year. I think Icky's going to take a big, big step forward. And I think he's going to be even better than he was last year. So, especially with the pieces around him, man. Like, I mean, you can't even, you can't even tell me that he's not. I mean, especially with our whole coaching staff and everything. I look forward to see what Icky does as he continues to progress. So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic here. So I want to talk about each and every one of these draft picks that we took and my expectations, especially after watching this third episode. We have OTAs in the books. We got rookie minicamp in the books, mandatory minicamp in the books. Now we're just waiting to get into training camp, where things will get more interesting. But Bryce Young, let's talk about him first. All right. They knew that they knew who they were going for. Frank Wright hasn't yet declared anybody the starting quarterback, but yet he has been working with the number one, working with the starters. I believe, and I think others believe, that he's going to be obviously the week one starter. I don't think Andy Dalton is going to be starting. I think that's kind of obvious. So Andy Dalton will be serving as our backup. This staff has nothing but good things to say about this young man coming to Charlotte. But I think that, every rookie quarterback is going to go through his fair share of bumps in the road. Okay. I don't expect Young to just come in and just light up the league and just, take us to a Super Bowl. I think he's good enough to lead this team to win the division, but further than that, I don't see it. Which I've already predicted that. I said 10-7 wins with the schedule. But I think, if we're looking at his statistics, like statistically, I could see him throwing for like 3,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's what I've said before, and I'm going to stick with that statement. So that's my expectations from Bryce. Now let's move on to Jonathan Mingo. Now Mingo might be our most intriguing draft pick besides Bryce Young, right? Because of his athleticism, his skill set at the wide receiver position. I think Mingo is in a position to be a very serviceable wide receiver to this team. I believe that they're going to take advantage of the fact that of his versatility, moving him all over the field. I think that we'll see. He'll probably get most of the reps out of the slot. I think Mingo's going to be our slot guy. And then plus he's been learning from one of the best ever to play that position as an Adam Thielen. So I think that's going to be a big, huge beneficial for him. I think he's going to put up numbers, around, I would say, I could see him doing around 30 receptions for like 400 yards kind of season and like a couple touchdowns. So, but I think that since he's a rookie, I think that's a good year for him because of how much of depth we have at this position. But also, I think that he'll take a bigger leap in his second year. And once we get into his second year, we will talk more about him and what we'll see. And obviously, let's see, depending on what happens this year. All right, the next rookie, we got DJ Johnson. Now, this one's going to be, I think, a project, okay? All right. I like his size. I like his strength, his ability to really stop the run. Apparently, our front office truly believes that this guy is going to help out in the pass rushing, and he'll eventually become that primary guy there besides Brian Burns. Obviously, Brian Burns will be our number one there, but he will be able to take some pressure off of Brian. It's all he needs to do is really just set the edge and contain the run, right? That's all he needs to do. Some people have him penciled in as the starter. I don't think he's going to, just because of him being a rookie. I think I see him being like a rotational role piece coming out, especially since he is a rookie. And I don't even think he'll even be thrown in the starting lineup at all. I mean, obviously, if as long as everyone stays healthy, that's the only way I see him becoming a starter, right? And then not last but not least, but then we got Chandler Zavala. Now, this is Brady Christensen's job to lose in training camp. And I'm not saying that Chandler is going to take it, but he is going to make it tough on this coaching staff and Christensen to see who's going to play alongside of Icky. Now the problem is Chandler has been nursing a pec injury at the end of our mini camp, but apparently from Frank Wright, he believes that he'll be good to go for training camp. As of right now, Christensen is to begin this season. But I think Chandler could end up taking that job away from him by halfway of the schedule. Now, I have said that Christensen could have his breakout year this year, and he could because he had a great year last year. He just has to continue that. So it's not a bad thing if Chandler takes over, which means he's just the better player, but it's not a bad thing if Chandler doesn't end up taking over. I think it's one of those scenarios that could go either way, but I truly believe that Christensen could be one of those guys to have a big year. So, but I do like Chandler. I think the draft, we've had one of the best drafts we've had in a very long time coming into this one. Now, last but not least, we got the dog, Jamie Robinson. I truly believe that after knowing him and seeing him and watching film on him, I'm surprised he went that late and that many people went in front of him. Obviously, maybe these other teams just didn't see the potential in him, or maybe these teams were thinking of other things to get, right? I don't know. But he has such a high ceiling for us, for him to find his way on the field this year. Now, Dante Jackson has spoken about him and he says that he's one of his favorite players in the corner locker room. So, no, everybody has talked highly of him. Hell, even Dante Jackson says that he's all business, and that he's almost like a Tyrann Mathieu hybrid. And if that's the case, we got a steal in the draft. Because he can play both safety spots, but he can also play corner if needed. He can also play nickel as well. So I think he'll be on the field more than a lot of people think as the season goes on. So those are my expectations of the rookies. Not much, not much really to it. I mean, everybody has their different opinions on these rookies, but it is what it is. But I think my expectations for each and every one of these rookies is very reasonable, and so. All right, next topic. Terrace Marshall Jr. Is he a breakout candidate? I have mentioned him before. Could year 3 be the big year for this guy? Because we have so many young players on this roster and so many options to have potential breakout seasons. But this name, I continue to throw his name around, and I don't know if I feel like I have really dived deep enough to really explain to my reasonings why upon this. I think I'm going to give you a short response, but it's going to be as deep as I feel like I can go. I think we'll know more about Marshall, where he stands in his development with this new coaching staff in the next month. When this team is in training camp, we will see if he's going to be a breakout guy. Now, they said that so far this spring, Frank Wright is very impressed with him, and he believes that he could be a big piece of our offense this year. So, everybody has said positive words, but that is about as deep as I can go with it. I think we'll see if he's going to be a breakout candidate in training camp. That's when we'll know. USA Today is already named him one of the Carolina's breakout players for 2023. So they have him. It's an interesting topic. We will see, I think, as we, go into training camp. All right, last topic. Now, we are very optimistic right now. Okay? We are very optimistic right now, but I do want to bring it's not really negativity. It's more of being a little realistic in these scenarios that I'm going to be mentioned, right? Like that I'm going to be mentioning here. We can talk about what we think is going to happen with the schedule or with the record predictions. We can think about statistics of every player that we think is going to do. Obviously, we don't know if that's actually going to come to fruition. But we also we're in a very positive place right now, but I do want to bring some scenarios that make sense to me. One is that our defense can't get any pressure. Now, the problem is because of the fact that we need another pass rusher. alongside on the other side of Brian Burns. So far, that position has been ignored besides DJ Johnson. I think that they are, I think that I think the Panthers are hoping that someone on this roster is just going to step up and become impactful with Evero's scheme. And I think that if that doesn't happen, there's going to be some repercussions that we need to be putting some question marks around, especially with our cornerback room due to injuries as well and our poor performance. All right. Now we have the salary cap to bring in another capable body. And I'm hoping that the right opportunity will present itself so that we can bring in that pressure. And this is something we don't have to worry about, but it could be a problem this year if we don't address the issue now. Another scenario, the loss of DJ Moore. Now, I know we got Bryce Young. We traded DJ Moore within that trade for that number 1 pick. All right. Now, Scott Fitterer has said he's going to be in every deal. There is talks right now that we are going after DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. But the nature of this business, for us to have been even to be able to get Bryce Young, DJ Moore had to be involved. All right. We didn't have to move the whole house to get that number 1 pick, but we did give up a good amount. All right. But now we all feel that we have our franchise quarterback, and we should feel that way. But getting DJ Chark, Adam Thielen in free agency, then you get Mingo in the draft. And then we're talking about maybe a breakout potential Terrace Marshall, which that could be a very highly productive foursome, but it would be I think it would be a very big disappointment if Young didn't provide improved distribution under center after so much lackluster production at the receiver level. If the wideouts cannot meet our needs, we also have Laviska Shenault, but he's also not been able to really been influential on our offense. We'll see, because they said that they might be moving him into a Debo style play. But this is something that is concerning as well. Can we have a guy that's going to step up? Right. Who's going to be our number 1 guy? Because we do need that. We do need to have a guy to step up and have a number 1 guy and be that productive, number 1 wide receiver. So we will see. Last but not least scenario, and I hate to bring this, and I hope I'm not jinxing us, but the worst thing that could happen is unless Bryce Young gets hurt. Bryce Young has all the talent in the world. I've said it before. I'll say it again. But everybody has been talking about his size, his height issues, and everybody's talked about it. I've even said it. I've been I've been like a broken record player about it. All right. But the NFL and the college football speed level is a total different ballgame. Okay. These guys are taking way heavier hits in the NFL than they are in college football. So the thing is this could be a worst case scenario. And that's why I've said that I feel that Bryce Young needs to put a little bit of size on so he can take the hits a little bit better. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot bothers this kid, right? But it only takes 1 hit sometimes. And if he gets hurt early and misses a good amount of games in his first year, it could be a terrible scenario. And it could leave us in a bad place with progressing as into the years go on. Now, having an experienced veteran like Anthony Dalton, then you have the dark horse as in Matt Corral back there. But neither one of these guys really come to the talent of Bryce Young right now, what he brings to the table. So the biggest thing is keeping Bryce Young under center and safe in that backfield. We have a great offensive line, okay? I feel like we've devised a offensive scheme around him that is up to our strengths. He's a smart player, super smart. Football IQ is out of this world. But this is just one of the questions that we got to ask ourselves. What would happen if this does? And it could be catastrophic, honestly. But I don't think it would. I don't think that's going to come to fruition. But we have to keep these scenarios in mind. We have to be realistic at the end of the day. We have to be realistic. So those are the topics I wanted to talk about today. I felt like I brought in a bunch of different things to talk about. You know, I talked about my thoughts on the Carolina Panthers Blueprint episode 3, best one yet. Talked about Icky making a huge step forward in this coming year. What I expect from each rookie player that we drafted this year. Terrace Marshall Jr., breakout season. I think we'll see once training camp comes around. Then the worst case scenarios that could happen for the Carolina Panthers this year. So, still going to be positive. Still going to be live. Same time, same place. Every single day, Monday through Friday. But yeah, that is today's episode. Appreciate everyone joining the lunch break. Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. And as always, guys, keep pounding.